Hey everyone, this is Ben back with you in the Midwest Model Shop. So in the last episode of the Duchess of Kingston, we went ahead and finished up the final layer of planking on the hull. And then I think I said some things about painting the bottom or finishing it or something like that. Regardless, over the summer break, I thought about things, and when I came back and looked at the ship, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to pick up where we left off in the instructions and follow those along. I know, a novel concept. So we're going to go ahead and remove a bunch of the supports that were for the bulwark on the main deck. We're going to go ahead and install the bulwarks. We're going to go ahead and remove all the supports. We're going to install the poop deck and main deck planking. We're going to apply some varnish to this, and we're going to go ahead and do our initial painting. And this is where the ship starts to pop and really come alive. Hoping that things will continue to move along, assuming I have time off here, relatively quickly, so we can make some more progress here on the ship. But this is the part I was looking forward to. This is why I purchased this kit in the first place, because of how cool it looks with the decoration and the paint scheme. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the build. Well folks, we're back in action. Last time we finished up planking the hull, and then I said a whole bunch of things about what I was going to do. And I just changed my mind. We're going to follow the instructions for the time being. Next page is page 27. We're going to remove all these temporary supports that I was knocking off. We'll have to cut these off and snap them loose for the next part, because we got to install some decking and we need to put the bulwarks in, and these things are in the way. So let's start ripping it up. Alright, we've got pliers. These were just CA glued in, and they broke a whole bunch of times on me. You may have recalled that during the initial process, and they're just here to strengthen everything and provide shape to the deck, right? What I'm wondering is how flush will they... I guess they could break off these parts, right? They could break off below the deck, and that would be fine. They're not in the way. I've got my little razor saw available if I need to cut it, and then the instructions, they just showed you using sandpaper to smooth everything off. So let's see. Oh, all right, so there's a bit of a nub. I think I could come back with they use sandpaper, but my X-Acto blade, something, and push it in there. I mean, it appears to be coming off pretty well. The wood's flexible, especially up front here. That's pretty easy. We don't have a lot of solid contact points up here. It's just that MDF board, which is nice. Okay. I mean, I'm being pretty aggressive. You want to be careful. I am rocking sideways, so I wouldn't go out. That would be probably bad. The external bulwarks and the work we've already done. All right, so those are loose. And we also have these guys up here. You know what I have? Hang on. I have this. It's basically an X-Acto blade that's a saw blade, and it's pretty flexible. So I'm going to see here. I'm just going to pull. Instead of using a knife and trying to hack my way through this, what do people say is you should always have the right tool for the job. So that actually came off flush. Now I don't know how this is going to work for the pieces down in the forward deck, the main deck. Up here in the poop deck, I think this is the poop deck. This will be fine. I can get it in here. There we go. That came apart real nice. Last one here. Kind of trying to use this like a Japanese saw. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those in woodworking. I actually don't own one yet. It's on my to-do list. I just haven't had an immediate need for it. Okay, so that takes care of that. And these are actually, I might run a little sandpaper along them, or maybe clean it up here with like an X-Acto blade, just to get it below the surface. So we need to rinse and repeat up here. I don't know, up here towards the bow, it looks like I'm going to be able to get this in here. Maybe if I come across like this, and then I can like flip directions and go that way, that's probably what we'll do. So any means kind of necessary without damaging anything, remove those pieces. So let me accomplish that, we'll get back to you. Alright, before I completely finish this up, I just want to share, I bust out an old set of side cutters that aren't that great anymore. This is by far the easiest and most efficient way to get these off. Like, it's MFD, it's not expensive, it's soft, you can clean all this up when you're done with a knife or some sandpaper if you want. This was just way less trouble. Like, you saw me monkeying around with that saw. There's no monkeying here. We don't monkey around. We're just removing the little sections, and it's almost ready to go. So anyway, this is just such a massive time saver that I couldn't, in good conscience, leave you with my clever saw idea, even though I'm sure there's an application for that down the road, and I have enjoyed that saw, especially on some plastic kits I've monkeyed with. So yeah, use some side cutters. Okay folks, for the next step, you're going to need these 4 parts. Your bulwarks, which they tell you right away to get out and start soaking in water because it's fairly thick. So we're going to start doing that, and then you get to install the 2 deck pieces. There's a note, if you have certain older kits, that the poop deck, this little square right here may need to be carved out bigger. Mine wasn't even cut out with the laser. It had kind of etched it, so I opened it up. Unfortunately, this piece of wood is bending the wrong way. Not a big deal up on the poop deck, but in my initial fittings, this one, it broke on me. Not the end of the world. It broke right on a planking line, so when I'm done, it'll just be, you won't be able to tell. Who cares? But the reason that happens is because our bulwarks roll in, you do have to bend it in half to get it to drop down in here. And this is, let's see here if we can't just finish that and get it down in place. You're going to probably have to do some sanding to make it fit the way that it should, or drop it down the top. There we go. So this dropped in actually pretty nice, and you could go ahead and line it up on your holes, and then obviously it's going to be easy to glue in the next half, and then you can start dealing with the bulwark. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this in, glue in the little poop deck, and then we'll start monkeying with these things, which I'm going to start soaking. Okie doke, so we are back. You're looking at a lot of clamps. So the first thing I want to point out here, this is just water. We have our deck installed. My seam worked out okay where I had my unfortunate split. That's just the way that it goes sometimes. Poop deck glued in nicely, not really a problem. So I soaked the bulwarks in a lot of water, and they tell you in the instructions that it is cut long in the front, and you may have to sand it, and then you could drop it in the back. And then they have these plugs you can shove in to the gun ports here to help line everything up. And that's all it says. What they didn't say, and I need to double check my instructions here, is that it would be tall. They're way tall. See right here. This is sticking up past the top, and it is bottomed out. I have the same situation going on in the back here. This is bottomed out, and if I flip the ship around, you'll see we're sticking up proud of the top here a lot. on both sides, and it's all the way down. So, what are we doing? Well, here's what I've elected to do. I've clamped the heck out of it, and the reason I did that is the wood's wet, and it took to the shape pretty easily. I'm gonna leave it. Pearwood absorbs a tremendous amount of water and expands a lot. Now, it doesn't expand, a 1/16 to a 1/4 inch, or 3 mil, whatever this is off, 5 mil, but it does move a lot. So I want it to naturally dry like this and mostly hold its shape. I might get my heat tool up here, my plank bender. We might provide a little bit of heat like this to encourage this process to kind of hurry up a little bit, so we don't have to wait 24 hours. For those of you who do not have a plank bender, just leave it overnight. Get it planked up like this, planked up. Go ahead and get it clamped up like this and just leave it overnight. Maybe put a fan on it or something and let it dry. My plan is, once we're holding the correct shape and it drops in like it's supposed to, we're going to trim the bottom. And I looked at this. Hopefully you can see right there. Our planks are the same height here to here, here to here, and then we have a ton of extra. I mean, we have a lot of extra on the bottom. I just drew on this. And so it makes sense that this should be trimmed to go down. It's just a little difficult to sort that out ahead of time. Now, I did think that maybe I screwed up in that, this isn't down all the way, or there was a gap or something like that on the deck. And I double checked the instructions. You were supposed to put the deck down first and the bulwark on top of it. And there's no real gap, and yeah, you're here. So I'm in a situation where I'm going to need to trim quite a bit of material off the bottom, and I need to do this slowly to make sure everything kind of works out all right. A little disappointed that that's a fairly major operation that has to take place, but at the same time, the pearwood changes shape so much. I mean, it moves a lot when you put it in the water. So I guess it's not, well, what I'm getting at is it's not fair to say, we got a major problem here. Something wasn't thought out. That's not the case. This wood needs to dry. Then we can start to monkey with it and figure out what needs to be moved and where. Although in the back here, none of this was soaked. This is all out of the water, okay? And it clearly does not fit. It's going to have to come down. So that's fine. So let's go ahead and just let this sit and dry up, and we'll come back when we can work on some things. Press it on. Okay, it is the next day. We've removed our giant pile of clamps, and I pulled out one of the bulwarks, and as you can see, pretty straight there, and then we get some crazy bends and curves going on, which is great. This is the shape of the bulwark up in the bow. It probably could be trimmed a little bit off the front. Maybe the gun ports line up pretty well. So now we're back to addressing the real issue, which is the height. So right up here, you've got some, I don't know if we want to call them anchor holes or what, hawse pipe holes. They're pretty low. They're probably in the correct position. The issue is I've got quite a bit of height up here, and you can see that this hole right there is too high. This whole thing needs to come down. So I'm suspecting we're going to lose those two holes, and we'll end up having to drill through the bow hole to reestablish them, which is fine. That's not the end of the world. But as far as fore and aft goes, at least on our starboard piece, it seems like it's pretty close. So I need to figure this out, but what I'm probably going to do is begin by taking some real close measurements here of the height that I need to lose marking that up from the bottom and then carefully cutting that off or planing it away. And I'll do that on both sides. The idea is I'm just going to remove enough material that I can bring this down into position and sneak up on the height that we want. The height that we want is for our gun ports to line up, and our little hole up here. We want everything to line up as much as we can. Once those are centered, if we're a little high or a little low on top here, that's okay. Those get sanded down to be smooth. They talk about that in a later step. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and that's the process, right? We're just going to figure it out. If I run into something crazy, I'll chime back in, but hopefully we'll be ready to glue this in the next segment. All right, pressing on. All right, this is our starboard side, ready to go, I think. Pretty much no big deal. All I did, like I mentioned before, was figure out, well, it's sticking up, say, you know, 1/8 of an inch. I drew a line up from the 1/8 of an inch on the bottom, and I used my hand plane to quickly remove the necessary wood along the bottom, and we're set. You do get these little plugs that you can stick inside of the gun ports to help align everything. Of course, they got to be sanded so they fit a little bit. Of course, the ones I was using earlier slid right in. So anyway, yeah, like that. So now that really is going to help, and I'm going to install these for when I do my glue up, just to kind of help keep things from sliding around too much on me. I think this will make a difference. And so up in the front, although it kind of looks like it, this square ended up, I don't know, it didn't quite, we'll have to do some trimming down the road. But I placed a lot of emphasis on making sure that these curves ended up almost exactly the same, because when we get the gunnels up here later on, I want to have a nice smooth even transition for everything. We did have, just as predicted, issues up here. Those holes are now kind of lower. You know, it's going to be fine, because if you look at the ones still remaining here on the port side, they're right at the bottom. So I think by the time we ream it out with a drill bit, we'll be okay. So we have a little bit of a gap. Let's see here. There we go. There's a little bit of a natural gap right there, and this will come together during the clamping. That will change the geometry just a little bit, but we're going to use a ton of clamps so that we can make sure we can continue to respect the shape of the whales here as we put them in, or the bulwarks, sorry, as we put it into place, because we spent a lot of time and energy and effort getting this curve and shape and everything along the bow here to work nice, be natural. So that's how that works. We'll work on the port side one here, and then clamp it up, get some glue on it. All right, pressing on. Okay, here we are with the bulwarks installed, and I also installed the upper ones along the poop deck, and then I went ahead and they're glued, and I've sanded the tops down for the gunnels. And the way that I did this, I just followed the instructions in the manual. I took a ruler, wrapped some sandpaper on it, and went like so to get them level. I did not do that on the top because my plane was going to work there, so I just used my plane iron, and it went along, and it took a little bit of work because it is curved. You can use this, but you need to tape off and mask here to protect so that you don't accidentally sand any of this off. Okay, so we have tape along the hull here, and the reason for that is I want to go ahead and apply a semi-gloss fast drying polyurethane to both decks, all of the inside of the whales, and then everything above my line here. Now ultimately the whole thing is going to get varnished, but I'm going to be applying paint. That'll be the next stage here soon to this edge, and then I got to do a little masking up on top here. So I thought, well, I'll mask this off, and that's going to be my starting point for the paint anyway. So that way I don't have to mask twice, or that's just what I did. One of the things I wanted to point out was up here for this upper gunnel. They tell you just butt it into, it's left long, butt it into the forward bulwark. So I did that on both sides, like so. But these kind of ended up in different spots somehow, and it's resulted in this one going almost all the way to the back, and this one ending up a tad bit short and lines up with this aft plank. We may need to put a filler in there down the road. I don't really know yet how that's going to play out, but I thought I'd point out that little detail to you. Also, on tops of these whales, or the gunnels that are going to go in here, I've got a groove. We're going to have put a board here and a plank here for the gunnel. I don't know about on top of this curve detail. So if nothing goes here, which I suspect is the case, we're going to end up putting some filler in here. This does ultimately get painted black, but we'll put filler in here to smooth this all off. Maybe work on that detail on both sides a little bit more, once again, to keep them the same true up in the bow area here. And yeah, it's just thinking ahead a little bit. So we've got our polyurethane. I wanted to... I don't really have a big brush. I don't know. I've done this in the past, and I've never been too picky about it. I just want to show you what's going to happen here, because I don't think much. It's going to darken this up just a little bit. Oh yeah, I like that. Let's see here. There we go. Hopefully you can see it. On the camera, it doesn't appear to be getting a lot darker, but in real life here, get that little dirt out of there, it's darkening up nicely. It's bringing out, looks like maple, which I don't think these were maple decks, but sure looks like it. That's nice. That's very nice. And then I do want to do the inside of the whales right here also, just to seal everything up. And that's going to darken this just a little bit. It's going to look nice. Now, I am aware down the road, if I want to glue a piece of wood to this, that might be a problem. We may have to do a little bit of sanding to secure the wood with wood glue. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and varnish all this up. I'm not going to make you watch all that, and then we'll come back for some of our first painting. All right, press it on. Here we are with masking tape put on our little ship. So all the varnish was applied. It went on nicely. Part of the point of that for pre-painting is it's kind of like priming. The varnish is absorbed by the wood. Now my paint will stick to the varnish top right there, and I don't have to worry about just soaking in and having all kinds of problems. I brushed the varnish on, then I hit it with a 600 grit sandpaper. It is silky smooth. So for colors, there's a coloring guide and suggested paint in the instructions. It's great. I'm just going to go with what I have here. So we're going to use a matte dark blue and a matte red. These are both life color paints. They spray on nicely. These are going to go on flat. I do want a better, like a little sheen when I'm done. So these will probably get another coat of varnish when I'm finished here. So, but we start out here, just do a nice light coat, and I've been doing a little painting here, so I've got a little bit of a dry nozzle. We're just gonna kind of glop it on initially here. Normally I wouldn't do that, but there you go. So I like the look. This is why I bought this ship, or one of the reasons I purchased the ship. I liked the bright colors. They didn't, to me, it didn't appear gaudy. The design, some ships I feel like were a little excessive in the decoration department, if you will. And not that I don't like opulence. but I like it tastefully done, I guess is the operative word that I'm looking for here. I am a big fan, by the way, of life color paints as an alternative to enamel. When you get them to work right, they paint great. This is out of the bottle, about 20 psi, with just a touch of their thinner. I mean, the tiniest bit. I do suggest, if you're going to have a long painting session, to put a little bit of a retarder in there, because I have gotten a dry nozzle on several occasions, and that's pretty annoying. And most of my trouble has come from having too much thinner in the paint. I've found that just a little bit is really all you need, and about 20 psi paints on nicely. Okay, so as you can see, it goes right on, no troubles. It's not being absorbed into the wood. So we have a red color that goes on top. So we need this paint to dry, and then I'll remask other areas on the top. Well, I'll mask off the blue, because the red that we're going to do goes up on top right there, in this little strip that I just pulled the tape off of. And then this is a really good example here. This is the varnished, and this is the unvarnished pear wood. So you can see we're getting a lot more depth and warmth to the wood through the varnish, and I just think it makes the ship look, it makes everything really pop. It's kind of like doing your like a wash, right, on a plastic model. All right, peel back from this direction. There we go. Okay, so there's our first blue, and I like it. It's nice and rich. It's just a dark blue color. And yeah, so we're gonna let that dry. And now this top area here, that's gonna go right underneath the gunnels, is gonna be red, and we're gonna use the matte red by Life Color LC06. And then when I'm done, I think I'll go over it with the same stuff, the polyurethane. Again, semi-gloss. I think that that'll help bring this out a little bit. If it's too matte, even with the semi-gloss, if it doesn't stay kind of rich looking, maybe then I will consider putting like just a gloss coat over this and sanding it. So anyway, let's let that dry for a bit. Okay, here we are back with a lot of masking done to get our red paint on. This is more of a nice trim than anything else. And this, you know, you can paint it on with a brush, and when my airbrush is working right here, it goes on nicely. All right, so like I said, I am concerned about coming back in here and filling this in, because the gunnel goes on top. Of up here, but not in this curved spot, I don't think. So we're gonna have to just kind of check on that, and we may have to come back and touch this up, and we can use a brush to do that. But ideally, if we can get this all to go on with the airbrush, it'll present a nice finish. All right, I won't make you watch this sputtering mess. Let's come back to taking the masking tape off. All right, let's get this tape off of here. Hopefully, it turned out halfway okay. And that we didn't get red paint all over creation. That would be good to avoid too. So far, so good. I mean, I kind of expected it to go halfway okay. I didn't... Oh, I got some red bleed through right there, and it got on the blue right there. We'll have to touch that spot up right there, but that's okay. If that's the worst thing that happens to me today, we're really doing all right. Oh, we got a little spot up here on the bow. We'll have to touch that up. That's not a problem. You know, sometimes you don't have to touch it up. You can use a knife if it's early enough. If the bottom layer went on well enough, you could scrape off your little excess sometimes. Okay. I think that is pretty darn good. So, a couple of spots to touch up. Obviously, this dark area has been varnished. This light area has not. I am going to probably just throw some more varnish on this bottom area down here and sand it, because in the next episode we're adding a lot more decoration, this is part of the reason why I got excited about the ship in the first place. I had also previously commented that I was going to varnish down here and put the white bottom on the hull. I'm realizing now that this is getting a lot of wear and tear. Well, can't see any, but it's being moved around a lot working on it, and I think that might be why in instructions we're waiting until later to apply this nice white hull bottom to minimize all the work that we've got to do on it here. So, I did get a little overspray here of red up on the bow right there on the bowsprit, but we can clean that off. It'll be all right. So, okay, that's it for now. I think we're going to wrap it up, and in the next episode, we'll put more decorations on. Hope you enjoyed this. Be safe. We'll see you next time.